Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Oh, congratulations on the school board.
Yes. Good morning, Ron. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Bill Wildrich.
All right, Bill. You got a seat right up front, so don't trip over the rug.
Good morning, Rotary.
Good morning,
Bill. Giving me a hard time over here. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this food and the fellowship of Rotary. Help us to bring the blessing of love and fellowship to others. Let us not be content when others go hungry. Help us to be among those who are willing to sacrifice that others may not be hungry, who dare to become a light in the dark loneliness of our stricken lives. Let us not harden our hearts or start over or shut our hands to the poor. We ask this in your name, O Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Bill. And to lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Lynn's up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Lee.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First.
Is it the truth?
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Lynn. And lead us in song, Chris Parker.
There we go. All right. In honor of the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, of course, we have to sing I've Been Working on the Railroad today.
George is going to do a solo.
Oh, George is going to do solo? Okay. Well, James, thanks for finding the lyrics. I appreciate it. All right. Everyone, please join me.
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Can't you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morn. Can't you hear the whistle blowing? Dinah, blow your horn. Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn?
Someone's in the
Kitchen with Dinah, kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah, strumming on the old banjo. Fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, strumming on the old banjo. All right.
Do we have any guests to introduce? Chris? Chris?
Chris? Do we have? Okay. Our president, Tom Tobin.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Tommy.
Let's see, one piece of housekeeping. I'm asking the folks to kill the music in the dining room. Hopefully that'll get accomplished. And also in that realm of audio-visual issues, James Field had one thing he wanted to mention to us as well.
First of all, I thought it was pretty good. This morning I loaded that up with the
That was good.
with the logo, because you guys sing that every morning, right?
Almost, yes.
Anyway, so warning, especially to the bad boys table.
Wait. He's talking to us. We're in trouble already, Jim.
They never pay
Yeah, so when you
attention.
hear what it's about. So the camera still has an issue where we can't connect it directly in the sound system. So we're working off the sound in the camera, which means whoever is closest to the camera,
You, Jim.
their sound, if they're talking, will be the loudest thing you will hear. So, so I would just ask if you're around the camera, try and keep quiet while the speakers are speaking, or else you will be the one everyone hears. Thank you very much.
Whoa.
So sorry.
To the millions who watch the broadcast.
May I call Dan Williams up to tell us, share a little good news for us?
Good news.
Morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Danny.
I have a letter from one of our scholarship winners, and I thought it was so well written, I wanted to share it with all of you. This is from Audrey Seuss. Thank you so much for the amazing scholarship. I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to meet all of you and to have had a wonderful interview. I enjoyed discussing some enriching topics and also laughing a little in between. Everything that I've learned about Hudson Rotary this past year fascinates me. What Rotary stands for truly inspires me. I'm so fortunate to be a part of a community full of integrity, intelligence, and kindness. And it's organizations like Rotary that make Hudson all of these aspects and more. With the generous $3,000 scholarship, I will be using the funds to help pay for my room and board at Ohio State. Again, not enough words can express how thankful I am to be granted this amazing award. Not only am I grateful to the scholarship, but I can now lead the Hudson High School better by embracing and understanding your philosophy of service above self. I promise to keep carrying out these words in college and my future. Thank you, signed Audrey Seuss.
Wow.
Very nice letter by Audrey. I know her parents, obviously, they've done a good job in raising her to show gratitude appropriately. Rich, I think we put her on the list as a potential future Rotarian for about 5 years or so. All right, good. Could I ask Mimi Becker to step up and share some information?
Well, we got good background.
This is, yeah, I need a stool, but I need the mic too, so. This is both an invitation and an announcement to help us prepare for the future. We all know that change is the only constant, and it turns out that all the evidence we have right now is that the rate of change to our global climate is speeding up, and the rate of change to the regional climate is speeding up. So what the League of Women Voters of Hudson has set in motion this year is a series of workshops, and I mean that, workshops, to engage community leadership, citizens of the community in a process that will lead to an understanding of the impact of climate change on our region, on this particular area specifically, and how we can prepare to meet the challenges that are evolving faster than any model had predicted. And so on October the 10th, here at Laurel Lake, The kickoff workshop will be, and this one will be primarily both a briefing by experts who have agreed to come in and share their knowledge with us about what's going on, what we can expect with respect to impacts on agriculture, on public health, on the region's water resource systems, and just sort of a general picture. And then we'll have a workshop session that will involve the participants in helping to identify what they perceive to be some of the challenges and some of the strengths of Hudson area that would lead us to follow certain pathways toward sustainable economies and life support systems. So that's the first workshop. The second one will also be here at Royal Lake on November the 7th. They're in the evening at 7 o'clock. And we'll have state climatologists here to talk about what the symptoms are that we need to be monitoring, and how they track the mitigation success. We're going to be hearing from some other cities in our region who have already gone down the path of preparing for climate change explicitly. And we'll again continue assessing the situation in Hudson in light of what we learned. And then in the first part of 2020, there will be a workshop in February where we will be hearing from experts in Hudson about public works, planning and building, how first responders are preparing, what they haven't been able to do yet, what needs are arising. And then in April, that one will be at Barlow, unless the renovations at the new town hall are done first. And then the fourth workshop will zero right down to engaging the participants in preparing planned recommendations for action at our local level. And this will be everything from individuals, what can you do, to what the city needs to do to be prepared and collaborating with others. So that's kind of a long announcement, but that's where we're going, and the outcome hopefully will be sound recommendations for moving forward. And so what we're doing is urging you all to put initially that October the 10th date on your calendar to come back here. And if you know of social organizations or your neighbors, let them know about it. You'll be hearing more in the hub.
Great. Mimi, thank you. That sounds like a very important set of workshops. October 10th. I imagine this is also on the League of Women Voters website.
It will be on the league website.
It will be on the website.
It will be in the hub as well.
And it'll be on the hub.
And I'll nag.
And Mimi will remind us too about the upcoming meetings, and we'll get it in more bite-sized pieces, so that'll be good. Thanks, Mimi. A couple other brief announcements here. In light of recent national events, and also the fact that just simply blood demands are so high in the summertime, this is not a Rotary event by any stretch of the imagination, but I know there's several blood drives going on. One in particular I wanted to call your attention to at St. Mary's Church, Sunday, August 18th from 8:30 to 1:30. If you can give blood, I know it would be appreciated. Second of all, Art on the Green, we have that coming up August 24th and 25th. I know I don't believe Pat's here this morning.
He is not.
But he
Sends his regards.
Yeah, he sends his regards. I'm sure he'll be here next week. If you have not signed up, if you want to, and I urge you to, because it is a lot of fun. It's really good for the club and the community. Reach out to Pat Shearer and either email him, call him, or we'll see him next week too. And just one other little thing, Jake. Is it Jacobson?
Or Jackson.
I think it's Jackson. Jake Jackson was here last week, and he mentioned that the Clock Tower Club holds a social event at Zeppi's for pizza and salad on the second Wednesday of every month, and I think like the fifth Wednesday of every month. So they're having that tonight. 5:30 at Zeppi's. I think it's like $12 or something like that per person for salad and pizza, and it's fun. So hope to see you there. All right, I think that's it for the announcements. So if I could ask George Snyder to step forward and introduce our guest today. Our speaker.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, George.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Morning, George.
I think most of you know we try to organize our speakers around monthly themes. And the theme that we began with for the month of August was summer fun. But we've now narrowed that quite a bit so that the speaker you're going to hear today and for the next 2 Wednesdays will be on the subject of summer fun in, on, and around the Cuyahoga River. This morning's guest speaker, Bobby Dinkins, is Vice President of Development and Marketing for Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. He began his career as a road warrior for the Professional Bowlers Association, promoting tournaments around the country. He later became Director of Operations and left the organization after the PGA Tour moved from here to Seattle. Before joining the Scenic Railroad, Bobby was Vice President of the International Soapbox Derby, overseeing its education programs, foundation and sponsor relationships, and licensing arrangements with over 100 cities around the world. At CBSR, he leads a staff responsible for all contributed income activities at our nonprofit, including memberships, annual fund solicitations, foundation grants, and corporate sponsorships. Recently, he added the railroad's marketing department to his responsibilities. Bobby is a graduate of the University of Akron and lives in Uniontown with his wife and his 2 teenage children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to my friend and colleague, Bobby Dinkins.
Thank you, George. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you having me out this morning. Before I get started, I do want to commend Mimi for some great information, but what you guys didn't see is that the whole time that she was up here, she was standing on her tippy toes. So that was as impressive as the information that she gave us. So that was quite a feat there, all that time standing on her tippy toes, Mimi.
It's 18 years of ballet training.
That was great. I was sitting right there just marveling at she wasn't moving. It was so impressive. So thank you for allowing me to update you on what's happening at the railroad. We've got a lot of exciting things going on here. I know we've been here before. Some of my predecessors have been here before speaking. So thank you for having me. Thank you for the song. It really was neat when I wasn't sure when you were saying we got a song for you if you were really serious or not. But as soon as you guys started singing it, I almost started tearing up in a way because because that song is it's so historic. And what we do with the railroad, part of our mission is Heritage Railroad Experiences, providing that. And part of our mission and what we're doing, when you'll see some of the cars that we're working on, is historic preservation. And I oftentimes, it's easier to speak to a group like this who are, it's not the young crowd, but we often forget where we come from, and we often forget what really built this country. And one of the things that built this country was the railroad. When they put that golden spike in Utah 150 years ago, it really brought this country together, and it made the country what it is today. And that song really reminded me of what we do with the railroad and stuff. So I appreciate that song this morning. That was really cool. So thank you guys very much. We've had a lot going on here at the railroad. I don't know if you've seen some of the exploits that we've been working on. We've had some recent media announcements. A lot of good media. We've been on WKYC a lot. We've been in local newspapers a lot. And among the most recent achievements, we've in the last 10 years or so, our passenger counts have grown dramatically. We've gone up almost 70% in the number of passengers over the last 10 years at the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. Last year we had about 170,000 passengers on our scenic railroad. That was just in 1 year. We've also added new events. We've added events. I was told this morning, can't wait to hear about the wine tastings and the beer tastings and those kind of events. So we've got our Grape Escape wine tasting events. We have our Ales on Rails beer tasting events. We have our brand new dinner train that we just introduced this past year starting in January. And I'm very pleased to say that it's sold out every Friday night. We've had 40 consecutive weekends of sellouts on our new dinner train. So that's exciting for us. Another part that's very exciting for us is we're in the middle of our capital campaign. It's our first ever capital campaign at CVSR. And we acquired 4 historic California Zephyr cars that are now part of our fleet, and they travel through our national park. And so the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Road is a proud owner now of a California Zephyr fleet of cars, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And just a couple months ago, I don't know if you saw in the Akron Beacon Journal, but we witnessed a truly amazing project here at CVSR, and that was the restoration of this amazing mural in one of our historic cars called the St. Lucie Sound Car. The St. Lucie Sound Car was built in the 1940s, and there was this historic mural that pretty much got destroyed in different transformations of the car. And our volunteers, about 14 volunteers, restored this beautiful mural, and I'll show you some pictures of it here later on. But what I want to do first is I want to start and tell you a little bit about what CVSR is all about and our history and kind of where we came from and where we are today. So without further ado, who we are. So we're a tourist attraction railroad, and we are a nonprofit. We're a private sector, non-for-profit 501c3 organization, and we have a partnership with Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is Ohio's only national park, and I'll talk a little bit about that partnership here shortly. As I mentioned, we're dedicated and committed to preserving and renovating historic rail cars so that they may be enjoyed by future generations. And in addition to providing event excursions all year round, we also offer a membership program, and we have an amazing, amazing volunteer base of more than 1,500 volunteers. And when I say volunteers, when you jump on the train, if you've ever been on our train, which hopefully most of you have, the train men and train women that are on the train greeting you and assisting you throughout the train ride, they are volunteers. The conductor, who is responsible for the transportation of the train and everything that happens on the train, he or she is a volunteer. The engineer who is operating the train, and I can't say driving, operating the train, that person is also a volunteer. Wow. So we have an amazing volunteer base. We've got about 200 to 300 core volunteers. We have a couple volunteers that just recently went over the 10,000 hour mark in their career volunteering for CVSR. So we could not do it without the volunteers in our association, so we really commend them. Our mission is very simple: to provide educational, recreational, and heritage railroad experiences, and to provide alternative transportation to and within Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the Ohio and Erie Canalway. So we provide heritage railroad experiences, we provide education, we also provide a lot of fun rides, including the beer trains and wine trains and dinner trains, and also alternative transportation to the park. So one of our most popular programs is what we call Bike Aboard. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Bike Aboard, but we go 26 miles is our train. We go from as far north as Independence at our Rockside station, then as far south as our Akron Northside station, which covers 26 miles through the national park. And so if you're a biker or a hiker or a walker, you can jump on our train and you can get to your original point of destination, and you can take the train back. You can put your bike on where you started, and you can take the train to where you want to get off, and then you can bike back to your destination. So when we say alternative transportation, it's not just a train, but we also have our popular Bike Aboard and Hike Aboard programs. So our connection to Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is a very strong connection. So really, for more than 100 years, in the late 1800s, trains have been moving through the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The Cuyahoga Valley line is the railroad tracks that we actually operate on now. And that started back in 1890 is when the Cuyahoga Valley Railroad started, which replaced really the canal system through this part of our state. So one of the things that happened was in 1989, a partnership began for Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad and the National Park. And when I say the partnership, there's no other non-profit railroad that in our country that provides this type of service and that provides railroad transportation to and within a national park. So Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad is the only non-profit railroad operating in our country within a national park. We're very proud of that. We continue to deliver many programs, and something we're most proud of is our educational programs. We work consistently with the National Park to provide education programs for children from kindergarten all the way up through middle school. And we have a great education program. When you talk about our partnership with the National Park, everybody asks, what does that mean? So we have a partnership with the park, and they actually own and they maintain the actual rail line, the 26 miles from Independence down to Akron Northside Station. And then CVSR, as our nonprofit, we own and maintain the rolling stock. So all of the trains, the train set, we own and we maintain that. We also have our Fitzwater Maintenance Facility, which is in Valley View. The National Park owns a property, owns a building, but that's we operate that maintenance yard. Tilden House, which is where we have our offices up in Peninsula, it's a beautiful house in the park. They own that, but we operate out of that. So we have a really nice partnership with the National Park, and we think it's mutually beneficial. Our history, and I'm not going to go through everything, but if you go back to the late 1800s, the Valley Railroad began service between Cleveland and Canton. In '72, this is a big year for us because that's when we were incorporated as a not-for-profit organization. And then in 1975, that's when we started operations as the Cuyahoga Valley Line, which was powered by, back then, a steam engine. We no longer operate a steam engine. We have diesel locomotives, but we do bring back a historic steam locomotive every year in September. It's a nickel plate 765 steam locomotive. It's a 404-ton beast of a locomotive. We bring it in for 2 weekends so people can enjoy historic railroad travel, and we're doing that again the last 2 weekends in September. So we started with steam, and we want to make sure that we preserve the history of what we started, and so we bring that locomotive back every year. We, in 1988 is when we kind of first acquired our first diesel locomotive, which is what we run right now. We have the 1989, the National Park Service and the Cuyahoga Valley Line entered into a cooperative agreement, which really formalized a partnership of what we're doing today. 1991, that's when we introduced our themed event trains. We have many different events. I think the one that people are most familiar with is Polar Express, which we run every year starting in November, that runs through almost Christmas, where we service about, we're up to about 47,000 passengers that we service now at Polar Express. And I'm going to go back to the volunteers because, all of the elves at the North Pole, all of the chefs on the train that help us run that program, those are all volunteers. And so we could not run Polar Express without all of our volunteers, and that's one of our biggest excursions. It is our largest fundraiser. We're a nonprofit, and when we say the Polar Express, 47,000 tickets we sell, we need that income to operate this railroad. The historic railroad that we operate, most of our cars are 70 years old. And when you try and you service cars that are 70 years old, as many of us in this room, I don't know if they're 70 or not, but to find pieces and parts for 70-year-old bodies is a little difficult. Oftentimes we have to manufacture pieces and parts for our railroad cars. So it takes a lot of money to operate this railroad stuff. So Polar Express is vital to our organization and is our largest fundraiser. So in 2007, going back to 1994, that's when we kind of changed the name Cuyahoga Valley Line. We changed to Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Rotary, which is what we are today. In 2007, we expanded our service. We operated more days, Wednesdays through Sundays. 2016 was a big year for us. That's when our first ever capital campaign kicked off, which we're in the middle of right now. We've raised about $2.5 million of the $5 million. And in 2018, last year, which was a big year for us, we were able to purchase the California Zephyr cars. So, I want to talk a little bit about these train cars because they are so impactful to what we do here at CVSR. How many of you, by a raise of hands, remember the California Zephyr train cars from the 1940s through the 1970s? Does anybody remember them? Some of you do. Okay, great. So, in the late 1940s, the Budd Company built 77 cars that were modern-day train travel. When I say modern-day train travel, they were lighter, they were faster, they were made of stainless steel. They operated from Chicago to San Francisco back daily. They ran from 1949 all the way up until 1970. March 20th was the very first official run from San Francisco to Chicago. And back in the day, it was the most talked about train in America. If you look online, and we've done a lot of research, Time Magazine, Life Magazine, they had these advertisements for train travel. And the California Zephyr train cars, the Silver Lady is what it was nicknamed. It was the first class way to travel. These Vista Dome cars that were put on the railroad tracks for the first time. They had 360-degree views when you were traveling across the country. It was the first class way to travel back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. The final operation of the train was made on March 22nd, 1970. So the California Zephyr train was operated for 20 years and 2 days. Very historic train set. And so we, through our capital campaign, were able to purchase 4 of the original California Zephyr train cars. We actually have owned one of them called the Silver Bronco, which was a Vista Dome car. We've owned that for a little over 15 years. But we were able to purchase these train cars. They made a huge impact for us. We are the only railroad operating now where we have 3 of the original California Zephyr Vista Dome cars operating on a train track right now. One of our trains, one of the cars, is a Silver Solarium. And it's unique to us, and it's unique to the California Zephyr train set because it's one of only 6 what they call dome sleeper observation cars that were built back in 1949. So this car that we have with us right now, down here is the lounge area that seats 12 people. We also have the Vista Dome, which you see up at the top, which seats 24 people. It's a 360-degree view of the national park as you're traveling on our train set. And then we also have 6 sleepers. We have 6 rooms in this car. So it was unique that when we purchased these cars, we had to bring them from Los Angeles to Chicago, and then eventually the nickel plate 765 steam locomotive brought them into the valley for us. But 19 of us flew out to Los Angeles and traveled 2 nights and 3 days on the cars. And people were sleeping in these cars. So it was the throwback to the travel in the 1940s. Yes?
Isn't there a story about how difficult it was to bring them back? The permission to use certain tracks was tentative at best?
Could you repeat that? Yeah, so great question. So the question was the difficulty in bringing them back, bringing them to Cuyahoga Valley, Scenic Railroad, and bringing them back to the valley. So as part of our capital campaign, the plan was to purchase these cars. What we tried to do was to try and raise all the money for it. It's about a $1.5 million purchase for us. But what happened once we started a capital campaign is Amtrak. So Amtrak, what they do is they help private rail car owners. Okay? There's a group of people around the country, just like people who own yachts, people who own private airplanes, private jets, people own private rail cars. And so what happens is, for people to operate these private rail cars, they have to hook them on the back of Amtrak to get them across the country, to get them wherever they want to go. And the group that we purchased these cars from, they operated charter service. They had the Silver Solarium, they had the Silver Lariat, and then they had the Silver Rapids, and they chartered these cars across the country. So people would pay to sleep on the car and travel across the country 3 or 4 days at a time. Well then, late last summer, Amtrak changed the rules on private car owners. And what they did is, they started eliminating some of the switching stations around the country. And so you could no longer then move your cars to certain parts in the country and you switch them on Amtrak cars and then get them to other places, because there's not one railroad that just kind of goes all the way across the country. You have to switch them at switching stations. And so they were eliminating the Cleveland switching station for private cars. And so we had to kind of bite the bullet. We ended up purchasing the cars before we raised all of the money to buy them, because it was going to be difficult for us to get them into the valley because we couldn't switch them in Cleveland. So what we had to do was we purchased them probably a year or so in advance, and what we really wanted to do, we brought them to Chicago, and then in September, the nickel plate 765, which comes every year from Chicago, from Fort Wayne, Indiana, to us, and it's a big deal to get them into the valley and stuff. they brought those cars in to us.
Cool.
So
Cool.
that's a long story of how we got them in here.
Oh, but it's an interesting story.
Very interesting, yeah. This is a silver Lariat, one of the other dome cars. This was our dining car when we came across the country. I was one of the fortunate ones to be able to travel across the country. So this is one of the Vista Dome cars. It's got 24 seats up top, and then it's got about 48 cars underneath and stuff. So beautiful car. This is one of the Vista Dome cars we got. Then our Silver Rapids, this is the Transcontinental Sleeper car. So we actually purchased this also. We couldn't just purchase a couple of cars, we had to purchase the entire 4-car train set. And so this is a sleeper car, and this is one of the rooms that I was fortunate enough to sleep in, coming across the country, going 90 miles an hour with a cargo net attached to my bed so I wouldn't fall out of it. Oh my God. Yeah, that's how train travel was back in the 40s and 50s. But just a beautiful car, beautiful train set, and we are now the proud owners of it, and we're very happy we're able to bring it back and have a permanent place here in Cuyahoga Valley. All right, another piece of our capital campaign I just want to talk about real quick, and I actually want to show a little bit of video on it, is what we call our edutainment car. One of the interesting things that happens when children jump on our Scenic Railroad, which is our 5-day-a-week railroad, is these little kids are so excited. They see the train coming into the station, the whistle's blowing and stuff, and it's like, Mom, Dad, there it is, here it comes, here it comes. They're so excited and stuff. And then they get on the train, and they're waiting for the train to leave the station, and then it starts moving and stuff. Mom, Dad, we're moving, we're on a train, we're so excited. And about a half an hour in, they're like, are we done yet? Mom, Dad, are we there yet? So, we listen to our consumers, and what we're doing right now is we are in the process. As a matter of fact, after I speak here, we're going up to Menor to check out the building process. Is we're creating an edutainment car, which is a rolling children's museum. It's a hands-on activity train for kids, ages, we'll say 2 all the way up to 8. And so we do have a little video. It's a walkthrough of what this car is going to look like. We're going to unveil it at our fundraiser September 20th. And no sound to it, but if we could just roll it on and show you what it's going to look like here. There's 3 themes to it. Trains are fun. There's a lot to see and do in the national park, and getting out in nature is important. So the kids are going to be able to come into the car on our Scenic, and they're going to be able to learn a lot about Cuyahoga Valley National Park, learn about trains, and have some fun while they're on the train. We're working with the Children's Museum of Cleveland. Matter of fact, the lady who designed all the exhibits at the Children's Museum in Cleveland, she's the one who designed this. We're working with the Akron Children's Museum, Hell Farm and Village, and the National Park to design this car. There's an interactive map on the wall there where there's magnets. They're going to be able to put up magnets as they're riding the train and seeing different things throughout the park. We have reading nooks so the kids can sit there and read. They can look out the windows as they're traveling on the train. That's our locomotive. At the other end is the caboose. So that's our edutainment car. And it'll be unveiled at our fundraiser on September the 20th. So we're very excited about that. This is, I mentioned about our capital campaign, and this is some of the projects we're working on. Bringing in the California Zephyr cars, doing an edutainment car. We're going to make one of our existing ADA cars, which is right now a coach car, into a dining car, because right now people with disabilities and wheelchairs cannot have access to a lot of our programs. So that's part of our campaign also. So moving on to, I talked a little about this project that really was about 2 years in the making. One of our historic train cars is the St. Lucie Sound car. It's a parlor car that used to run on the Florida line back in the 1940s and 50s, and we acquired it, George, about 2012, 13, or?
At least.
At least, yeah. And it went through a total restoration in 2015. And when I say that, this bar area that you see here, one of the things popular with train cars back in the 40s was to put these bars in and these linoleum covers of the bar area. And when we were taking the car apart, our workers discovered that underneath this big green nasty shag carpet that was on this bar here, they pulled it out and they found this amazing mural that was built in the 1940s, a linoleum mural. And so our volunteers decided that they wanted to restore this mural. And it was a labor of love for over 2 years. Wow. They contacted a lady from a museum up in Cleveland who taught them how to take the solvent off of the linoleum, because it had this carpet backing that they pulled off, this nasty sticky stuff. You couldn't just put water or something to take it off. You had to use scalpels to take it off.
Is that right?
And so our volunteers took it upon themselves to restore that mural, and that's what it looks like today. There was 12 volunteers. They called themselves the Scrappy Scrapers. They had 1,494 hours, and they began in January 26th of 2017 and just completed April 28th of 2019. And when you talk about dedicated volunteers, not only do they work on the train, not only do they help us with Polar Express, but they do these kinds of projects because they realize how important historic preservation is to our railroad. And so this was an amazing project. How it happened, it was just, it's a story unlike no other. So they found, they saw the pictures of it. One of our volunteers was traveling on Amtrak, back, I think it was about 3 years ago or so, when they were talking about restoring it. And she had a CVSR logo shirt on. There was a guy sitting across from her. As you do on train travel, you meet new people. And so he says, "Oh, do you work for CVSR?" And she says, "Well, I volunteer at CVSR." And the gentleman says, "Oh, do you guys still have this St. Lucie sound car?" She says, "As a matter of fact, we do." She says, "As a matter of fact, we're starting a restoration project on the bar area." And he says, "I worked for the company that when they redid it, they put that carpeting on that bar." Oh. He says, "I was so mad when they did that." He says, "I have pictures of the original bar," because we didn't have any pictures. And as you can see, it was really torn up. Right there, there's a piece missing because that's where they attached another bar piece and stuff. So he says, "I have pictures. Would you like me to send those to you?" I said, "Absolutely." So what they did is, she got the pictures, and this is where this whole project is amazing. So they took the picture, they put it on a projector unit. They then projected the photos onto the mural, and then they had to come up with that piece. They had to redo that piece and cut it out of linoleum and then paint it. And so they had a guy one of our volunteers, who was a flooring guy, and said, "I think I can do this." And so they put up pictures, he framed it, he did everything. On his kitchen table, he took a piece of linoleum and he cut it out and stuff, and then eventually attached it and stuff. So I would love for you guys to be able to see this if you ever ride our railroad and stuff, the St. Lucie Sound Parlor car. This is it. So what a project this was for us.
What's the backstory on the actual mural itself? Yeah,
it's a Southwestern theme. Don't know all the stories. I know there's very popular those types of themes. Some of our the California Zephyr cars, some of the paintings in them and stuff are it's more Western themes. I know that the California Zephyr cars, not the St. Lucie car, but the Zephyr cars, a lot of them were named after horses. Silver Bronco, there's Silver Lariat, and there's a whole list of 77 cars, so they had a real Southwest theme. Don't know exactly of why this was, but yeah, they restored it for us. And that's the back end of the St. Lucie car. That's our parlor. So, yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful, yeah. It's one of our popular cars. We do private car rentals and stuff. We have a lot of receptions. We've actually married people in that car and have a little wedding reception and stuff, and have a lot of business meetings and stuff in our St. Lucie Sound car. All right, CVSR events. I know my time's running out here and stuff, so we've got some events I want to talk about. We have our National Park Scenic, which is our traditional railroad that runs 5 days a week. We run Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We start at 9 o'clock in the morning up at Rockside, and on Wednesdays and Thursdays we do what we call two loops. We go from Rockside to Akron and back, Rockside to Akron and back. That's 2 loops. And then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we add a 3rd loop. So then we go Rockside to Akron and back one more time. Ends about 8 o'clock. So our traditional National Park Scenic runs 5 days a week. The Polar Express, I mentioned to you, that's our signature event where we have 47,000 passengers. Starts, I think we're about November 8th this year, running till December 21st. We run about 42 out of 3 consecutive nights. It's a monstrosity for us, but it is so popular. And we're in our 26th year in numbering. We have multi-generations now going through Polar Express. So it is our signature event and is our largest fundraiser and something we're very proud of. Steam in the Valley is another event that we're very proud of because it brings back historic rail travel. Brings back that high-stepped 404-ton locomotive. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to either ride it, which is 2 weekends we offer Steam in the Valley, or at least go see it. It's something that is very, when the thing comes by you, when we do Steam in the Valley, if you're on the train, about halfway through, we let everybody off at Indigo Lake, and then the locomotive and train, it backs up, and then it starts chugging, and it starts getting faster. And it runs right past you, and it's just this wind coming at you, and the steam flying and stuff and everything, and it's pretty impressive. So I would encourage you to check out Steam in the Valley, which is the last 2 weekends in September. Our popular Great Escape wine tastings and beer tastings, we run those about once a month. They're very popular, 2-hour train ride. Get samplings of wine, samplings of different beers. Our Bike and Board program I talked about, we have a really nice program, Veterans Ride Free. We do, actually it's going to be on Veterans Day this year, where we offer free rides. We do 1 train out of Rockside and 1 train out of Akron, and we offer all of our veterans a free ride on the train. So, Family Fun Loop, and is sponsored by Meyer. We have a lot of family activities that we run out of Peninsula, actually. It's not the 3.5-hour loop like our Scenic runs, but it's about an 1.5-hour ride, and we do different programs. We do Build-A-Bear, we do Coco's, coloring and cookies. We do a lot of moms programs, a lot of dads programs, so I would say check out if you have any grandkids or kids who are younger age. We do Royalty on Rails. That picture right there is one of my favorite pictures. One of our volunteers with one of our Royalty on Rails participants where they get to spend time with the princesses. We also have superheroes on the trains too, so we have Batman and Spider-Man and Superman, so a lot of kids activities that we have going on. One of the new additions to our array of programs is Dinner on the Train. One of the things that we had talked about before we acquired the California Zephyr cars was, can we offer a high-end dining experience? There's a very popular train in Cincinnati called the Cincinnati Dinner Train, and they offer high-end dinners. And so when we talked about the California Zephyrs bringing them into the valley, was can we do dinners? Before we had the California Zephyrs, we didn't have kitchens on our train set. With these California Zephyr cars, the Silver Solarium and the Silver Lariat both have full working kitchens on them. So in January of this year, the last week of January, we started our dinner program, and it's 84 seats per night, and it runs every Friday night out of our Rockside station. And it's a high-end dinner train. It's a 4-course meal, an open bar, and we are sold out. We've sold out every single week from January through November 1st.
Take an Uber.
Take an Uber. Speaking from experience?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. So what we're looking to do next year is to possibly add another car to our dining experience so we can provide more opportunities for people to enjoy it. So very popular and something that we're very excited about because it kind of exceeded our expectations. So. Our Read Aboard program is very popular with little children. I'll say little children, kindergarten down, preschool kids. It's where moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, they jump on the peninsula, and we have a program where they read with their kids, and we have crafts and activities for them. And all of our education trains, we work with the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and their education team to provide a curriculum that is very, it works well in the national park because we teach them about what happens in the national park. We teach them about trains, so it's about an 1.5-hour loop that we run about 3 days a week. So, I mentioned our volunteers. Last year, 1,570 volunteers. Wow. They set a record for us last year. It was 106,514 hours. And I think this is my last slide, and it's on purpose because without our volunteers, we couldn't do what we do. We have a staff of about 30 people, and half of those people are in our train yard, maintaining our trains, working on our capital campaign projects. We have a development team, a marketing team, finance team, but our volunteers are the core of what we do, and we can't do it without them, and this is what we're all about right here. So that's it.
Questions? Questions?
So, since I have the mic, I'll start off. Couple things. One is I was on one of the wine tours with my wife and our couple. We loved it, so highly recommend it. So, did you say, or is there ability for a group to actually maybe rent out a train or a car for an evening?
Great question. Yes, so we do have what we call private car rentals, and we have numerous different opportunities. Our St. Lucie Sound car is a popular car. Seats about 20 people. We have a little bar area and a beautiful parlor area. We have people that rent out our coach cars, our 80-seat coach cars. They just want to have a big party and they want to ride the train, 3.5 hours. You can rent out our silver solarium, rent out our silver lariat. So yes, we have private car rentals and we do quite a bit of those.
Yeah, because I know a group that meets every Wednesday morning that...
Might be true. We run at 9. We start at 9 a.m.
Oh, no, they'd be up for an evening one.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you say that because what I did put on here is one of our capital campaign projects. We're the owners of, I think it's 4 what they call rail diesel cars, RDCs. And a rail diesel cars, what they are is they operate independently from a train set. It's one car that has like an engine like a Metro RTA bus. And there are controls at both ends. So the engineer controls it from one end. If they're going, if they're going north, he's at the one end. If they're going south, he's at the other end. And we haven't run those in about 7 years. And as part of our capital campaign, we are actually restoring one of those as we speak. I wish I had a picture of it. And we're making that into a car that could be used for meetings, for parties. And it's important to us because, you just said, Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. we meet. Well, we can't do that now because we have a train schedule and we have to operate within our schedule right now. But once we get this RDC online, which will be in late September, we will be able to do more of these events. It's going to seat about 50 people, have a little bar area, and have a seating area for 48, and it'll just run independently from our train set up and down our rail lines. So we're very excited about that.
That's
coming on board.
Are you taking reservations now?
Not yet. But we think about uses for stuff, and Polar Express is so popular, and what we can't do is we don't serve alcohol on Polar Express. We serve hot chocolate and we serve cookies. But how about an adult ride to the North Pole on our RDC car? We start thinking about the uses for this RDC.
I'll take the month of December.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. I grew up in South Dakota. I went to Marquette in Milwaukee. My freshman year and half of my sophomore year, 4 times a year, I rode the Hiawatha from South Dakota to Milwaukee on its way to Chicago. And spent a lot of time in the dome car, and they weren't very strict on their bar car either.
But are you insinuating we're not strict, huh?
No, I'm just saying that it was quite an experience, and it was really the only way to get from home to college.
Yeah, good time. The Vista dome cars it's amazing. If you haven't been on them yet, I would encourage you. Especially where we're at, especially in the fall. Our busiest time is coming up when we start with our Steam in the Valley in September. Then we do what we call our Fall Flyer, which is a little bit different from our Scenic because everybody wants to travel through the national park when the leaves are changing and stuff. So and then we go right into Polar Express. So I would encourage you, especially in the fall, to, if you could, jump on one of the dome cars and enjoy the ride.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Bobby and George, thank you both for putting this together today. I think we're all inspired by the dedication of the volunteers. I mean, you were talking about people that have contributed 10,000 hours.
I think we've got 3
That's 5 man-years of volunteer time per individual to this effort. I mean, if anybody tried to, you can't. you can't imagine, I mean, the passion that these people must have for preserving our historic heritage, our heritage in the railroads, and bringing this experience to young people and everything. Tremendous amount of programs there, a lot to offer. I thought a lot more than what I think we've heard in previous presentations, so good on you for that, growing. And I think we all should make it a point to experience the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad soon. All right, so thank you for that. All right, moving on to, okay, by the way, I want to mention real quickly, we do have a board meeting after this meeting in the Greenwood private dining room. All members are welcome. And let's see, we have Fine Day today. We have $12. Excuse me, I'm sorry, folks. I don't know why I'm reading that.
Winning ticket pays $12.
It's Rotabuck, and it is $12 today.
Pay fine.
The jackpot is $312.
Put it on the wall.
Bobby, could I have you pick up?
Oh boy, a lot of pressure.
Hold on.
Tom's yeah, his jumped right out there.
If I win, I lose. All right, the number is 1532.
Oh. 1531, is that come?
Liz, all right.
Yeah, okay.
Come on up.
Nice round of applause for Liz.
Once again, the jackpot, $312.
Hold it up really high, Tom.
Beautiful.
Hold up higher.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Darn.
Try again, play again next time. Let's see.
She wants her lunch money.
The envelope? Oh, yes. All right.
Sleight of hand.
Guys, remind me, who do we have as a speaker next week again?
It's either the river restoration or it's the rowing club.
I think it's restoration because I saw it on the.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind
Our
of,
guest knows.
okay, so it's river restoration. All right. There'll be
50th anniversary of the burning of the Cuyahoga. So
50th anniversary of the burning of the Cuyahoga. Let's all celebrate that. So remember to bring a guest for that next week if you can think to do that. We have our quote of the week from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Okay? And as we leave this meeting this morning, let's all go out there and show the world why we are proud to be Rotarians.